Into a magical conversation this hour. Patrick Obath, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm very good.
Very good. We like such adjectives, and it's good to see you after a minute.
Yeah.
And now as we get into I want to call it a magical conversation because it is one, essentially. The Magical Kenya Open 2025 is taking place in a couple of days, and all the, parts are moving and coming together. And it's around that and the sport of golf that we'll be talking about this morning. So thank you for being here, and karibu sana.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Glad to have you here. Yeah. Siti's going to welcome you with today's proverb, and we know you have so much work to do over the next couple of days, but you know what, we're going to give you a little bit more this morning, whereby you hear the proverb and then you translate it and tell us how you would interpret that. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is part of my work.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we have a proverb interpreter. Patrick, how are you?
I'm very fine, thanks.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Niger. For the longest time, I know it was called Niger.
It was called Niger, but
yes.
No.
But we call it Niger. Now, there's something I want to mention here about many African countries. The relevance of many African countries embedded in rivers that traverse their borders. You'd be amazed. Literally every region of this country has some major river that sort of gives it more meaning than you'd ordinarily know, because that river is responsible for a myriad of things. Well, I'll be going into the details as the week sort of moves on. Mm-hmm. Now, the proverb, well, interesting. I talk about rivers and the proverb is about water. Okay. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What does it mean?
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here.
Yes.
That's what we're waiting
I'm just asking that to give me time to think.
We see you, Patrick. We know.
We're patient.
Okay, what does it mean? Let me help you. Mm-hmm. It means water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
Yes. I think when I listen to that, footprints are on soil. Mm-hmm. And if water hits them, they are obliterated.
Yes.
Words of the mouth are in the air. Mm-hmm. And even if water comes through, it will not, once that noise is there, the water will not will not cover it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Different one.
Some thought.
Mm. Oh, no. It is good thought.
It's fantastic.
It is very, very good thought.
Unique.
So now let me ask this question. Since indeed you have actually been very prosaic in your understanding of this particular proverb, the game of golf.
Yes.
Okay? Small white ball.
Yes.
Okay? It's not microscopic, small.
Yeah.
Then long stick with a head called a club. You spend the whole day hitting this ball, at least chasing it around a large area.
Very large.
How did it begin and why is it interesting?
Okay. there is a bit of a tussle about the origin of the game of golf. One story has that it was actually originated in the Netherlands, and it was called Kolf, Kolf. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other more accepted story is that it was called golf,
right,
and it originated in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And that is the one that everybody has spun a story about. And the story about that is that you had shepherds going around, and the sheep were hanging around busy eating their grass, and the shepherds had nothing to do. So, and they had the staff. The stuff that the shepherd has got that thing on the top, yeah. So they started using that to hit, as a game, to see how far they could hit stones and whatever it is. And by and large, golf came from there. It's an adaptation and became better and better and better. And the original golf clubs were made out of wood. They were made out of something called persimmon, which is a special type of wood that's actually quite hard and it can hit.
Yeah.
And then they developed, almost like a pebble, a rounded pebble.
Yeah.
You can imagine what that is, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then science took over for that. And then all these things started coming up. You got a white golf ball. It's got all those dimples in it to make it more aerodynamic and whatever. And then the ball, the clubs moved from persimmon. Then they started having, better types of wood. They'd have better, a few grooves on it to make it work better. And the technology has developed since that time.
I think that's so interesting because here we are talking about shepherds in a field knocking a piece of rock about, and usually the thing about shepherds, the connotation is that these are poor men.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
who their livelihood is from the sheep. And then today we're talking about golf,
Rich man.
and the connotation is that it's a rich man or woman's game, sport. I think that's to draw the parallels between that. And are we going to throw off that? Now, if you would have a stick that could be a staff, and now if you're going to buy a set of golf clubs, it's going to set you back a pretty penny.
It does set you up a little bit, set you back a little bit. But I think like every sport, it starts off from one place and it develops over time. And it depends on who develops that sport, right? And if the aristocrats decided that this is what they want to do, then so be it. That's how it developed. Look at something like polo. Same thing.
Yes.
It's horses and everything else.
Exactly.
It used to be, chariots that people were riding into battle. But now you got horses which cost you an arm and a leg to sort of do whatever it is, and you play with that, yeah? So every sport develops with that kind of stuff, and golf is not to be excluded.
Yes.
Golf went through those stages, started off, eventually it became an elite, like an elite sport. But I think globally,
Right.
now, when you look at the evolution of golf over the last 15, 20 years, the demand for playing facilities has risen drastically. And even if you look at the most recent review of the rules of golf, they actually were made to sort of speed up the pace of play because our younger people want action.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Just to explain this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you had rules that were deemed to be slightly restrictive, or at least they were not open enough to enable a larger population to participate. So what were these rules, and what has changed, and what makes these rules easier?
I think what has happened is that the getting to play golf, it's a game of golf. I'm not talking about where you play it, but just playing the game of golf. First of all, getting a handicap, you had to play up to a certain level, and spend a lot of time practicing before you could actually be allowed to go and play golf. They've now eased that. The handicap used to be 28. Now you can enter with the handicap for, I think, 56 or something like that.
Please explain handicap.
Handicap, yeah.
A handicap is what is something that is a leveler in golf. So if you're not a very good player, you're given a very high handicap. You're given extra strokes compared to somebody who's very good. Now, on average, on a golf course, you're allowed, say, it is what they call, quote, par 72. That means you're allowed to use 72 strokes to go around the course.
Okay.
In a particular, in
And
a
this
given
particular
way.
course is how many holes course?
That is 18 holes.
18.
Holes.
Okay.
So 72 strokes to go around that. Sometimes it is 73, sometimes it is 71, but average is 72.
Sorry, Patrick. Just clarity. So I can hit this ball 72 times.
Yeah.
To make sure it's gotten into these 18 holes and finish
Yeah.
the course. So every time I hit the ball, one is taken away.
Yes.
So in order for me to complete a round,
Yeah.
I have to have to pass. I've been given 72 times to hit this ball,
That is if you're a perfect player.
All right.
and everything
Who
is wonderful.
is wonderful, and you're very skilled. You should be able to go around in 72
Okay.
or less.
Or less. Okay.
Yeah.
Voila.
But the average person like me can't do it.
All right.
So what they do is to make it equal for everybody. Patrick Obath is given another 10 extra,
Okay.
which is allowed. So if he scores 82, it is the equivalent of a very good player playing 72.
Okay.
So we are together.
That's
All right,
now
so
the
far.
handicap.
That is now the handicap.
Okay.
So is there a maximum and a minimum handicap?
The handicap depends on how you play. But the entry point used to be 36 for ladies and 28 for men.
So over
So
and
you-
above 72, they
you're
give you
given
another
those.
30.
Yeah.
So you started with 100.
Yeah.
That's very good.
I'm
But
very,
now is
yeah.
now the handicap. This is not talking about the entry.
Yeah.
Has been increased for, I think, for men is 56 and for ladies is 48 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So you can come in much easier than before.
So you can just clobber this thing the way you like because you have a
But it has to get in the whole city.
I'm very interested in, because if you try and just Google and check which are the most common sports in Kenya, you look at the athletes, then you look at football actually coming at top of it.
Yeah.
But then you also mentioned yourself that it started from a shepherd and now into being termed elite. But what we're looking at right now is you've said that young people want to be more invested in, and my question is how, if these things that have been easing a little bit are picking up to make it a little more popular? Because if a common Mwananchi listening to us today is associating golf with the elite or the rich, they might not really feel that the magical Kenya Open is for them to be, part of. And I just want to understand what you think progress has been made in as far as making this particular sport a popular sport.
Mwananchi sport.
A Mwananchi sport, because that's basically it. They should be enjoying themselves. You should support it just as much as they support football. And as you're speaking of the handicap and par, and trust me, when we read news and read all this par, I'm glad you're here so that I understand what par is, because we just read it. But it is very, very important. The common Mwananchi says, when we see Obath here, we can take our children, we can have this also included in the curriculum, not just take your kids to play soccer, but they can actually be part of the par.
Let me explain this, and I think CT the last time I was here, I explained. I took it from the way I encouraged people to play golf when I was running. I was a golf captain in a club. I just said, on an average weekend, when Patrick Obath goes to hang with his mates, and he has his nyama choma, he has this, and his black label, whatever and everything, which I do.
Okay.
Right? And you have your drinks, yeah? I'm not talking about the bottom of the pyramid, I'm talking about slightly above.
Yes.
Okay.
How much would you spend on a weekend? 30?
30, 40.
40,
I mean, that's what's happening, isn't it?
50,000 shillings.
Yes.
On a weekend. Multiply that by 12. By 54, sorry. 52, is it?
By
How much does
52
that come
weeks.
to?
Patrick, you asked me that question as though you're alluding that I spend that amount of money in a weekend.
No. I'm just saying this is average. I'm not talking about
Well, it's
mathematics.
about 1.5 million shillings. It's
1.5 million shillings.
No.
Yeah?
I'm sure over.
Okay, now.
In your head?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, 1.5 million shillings. Yeah? Now, actually it's 2.5.
30,000 shillings by 52
I took
weeks?
about 50K.
Oh, okay, so if you go more
About
than that,
50K,
about
2 days, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay,
Yeah?
so
50K.
about 2.5 million
2.5 million.
in a year.
Now, Patrick Obath wants to start golf,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
To join a basic golf club. I don't want to go for the very high cost one. Just a basic golf club where you can join. It'll cost you probably about 100,000 shillings
Per year
to join,
to join.
right?
All right.
Then
You've just joined.
just
the club.
kufungua mlango tu.
Okay.
Hakuna- There's nothing else.
So now you're
Yeah?
you're
Now you're in.
You're a member of the club.
You're a member of the club, then you go to pay your subs, yeah? And your subs, you probably pay 10,000 shillings a month,
Okay.
All right.
5,000 shillings a month or something like that.
Okay.
Are you adding up?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So let's say
flowing.
5,000 a month. That is about, now you're at 160,000. The 100, let's put the 100 aside because that is a fixed cost to enter. That is the opening.
It's very fun.
So this is now your operating cost. So 5,000 shillings a month. So after I've joined, I need to get some practice and some training with
Right.
a professional.
Yeah.
Right? That will probably cost me about another 20,000 shillings for, I don't know, for 10 lessons or something like that.
Okay.
10 lessons, 15 lessons. Right? After that, now I am able to at least hit a ball, yeah? But I've also bought a basic set, which is going to set me back maybe 100,000 shillings.
Okay.
Yeah? So 5,000 shillings a month, which is 60,000 a year.
We had 280.
Yeah, including
we're
the joining
200
fee is
and-
Yes,
280.
we
Yeah?
had 280
Yes.
now. Yes.
So I've got my basic kit, I've been trained, and I'm a member of a club.
Yay.
Yeah? Now, when I play golf, I am occupied for how many hours? 5 hours
In a day.
on the course.
Okay.
And you don't touch your phone through it.
Yeah, I'm away from any temptation.
Right.
I'm chasing this ball around that place.
Yeah.
5 hours maximum on average.
Yeah.
Then after that, I go shower, whatever it is. Now I meet with my friends.
Yeah.
Now, if you start playing at about 11 o'clock, you're finishing at about what time?
About
By the time you finish,
5.
about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening,
Yeah.
and then you can have a few drinks. By that time, you're tired anyway, you're going home.
This is on a Thursday afternoon.
No,
or Tuesday, any day.
Me,
of
I'm
the
only
week.
taking the weekend.
This is the weekend.
Me, I'm looking at that
Because we
50,000
go to
shillings a day.
work-
I'm not talking about the weekday.
Because we go to
Okay.
work Monday
Yeah.
to Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just talking about the weekend only. That's 50,000 shillings a day you're spending. I want to equate that
Okay.
to what golf does for you.
All right.
Yes.
You get where I'm going?
Let's go.
So now I finish playing and I'm a bit tired. So I'm not going to stay until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I'll go home and do something different. How much have I saved?
So in a year, you spent 280,000. All right, on this activity.
This is basic. And
This
then
is-
on that day,
Oh,
I'll
and
pay
then
my
you-
caddy 1,000 shillings. Yeah. And then I may have a few drinks, maybe another 1,000 bob.
Okay, so you spent 13,000
Really
on
tip the
that.
guys who hold the.
So you're
Yeah.
going to spend about 300,000 shillings for this activity for the year.
Yeah.
Now, if you had done this other business where you're just, spending 50,000 bob to drink,
Yeah.
you were spending 2.5 million in the year. So you've made a grand saving of ding, 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 1.9 million.
It's not that. I think it will probably be about 800,000 because
Okay.
there are a few other things there as well.
Of course, taken into consideration.
My sum is 800,000 shillings
Okay.
that you'll have saved.
Okay.
But there are other things that also work for you.
All right.
You spent 5 hours walking 10 kilometers. Exercise.
All right.
You are in the open air.
Right.
Hopefully with trees and everything else.
Yes.
Oxygen. And you're away from all the stress of the world, mental health. Weka yote pamoja, how much is that worth?
Oh.
Can you really put a label or can you put a price
Exactly.
tag
I
on
can't
it?
put a price on that thing.
Yeah.
So now, I think demystifying golf, it's not expensive. If you're thinking of the high cost clubs, whatever it is, yes. But it's like anything in life. You go where you can. And if you want to play golf, there are clubs that are at an affordable level, and it doesn't really cost that much to play golf.
Right.
Yeah, and as you go up in life, that's what people have done. They've said, no, me now I want to go to the next level of club.
Right.
So I leave this club where I started, I go to the next club and the next club and the next club. Yeah, and there are others where you can't join unless you paid 1.5 million shillings to join. Now,
Remember, you asked a question
joining
earlier
fee.
on, and Anki there was laughing at me.
Was I?
Yes, once I've paid this fee, whether it's 100 or 1.5 million, if I'm unhappy, can I get a refund?
Oh,
No, that is a sunk cost.
exactly. You see why I laughed?
It is not a shareholding. If it was a shareholding, then you would get your money back.
All right.
But this is a joining fee.
But it's a members club,
Yes.
and I'm a member.
Yes.
You're not a shareholder.
You're not a shareholder.
I can't unmember myself.
You can remember yourself, but you don't get your money back.
All right.
Refundable city.
Ukitaka kwenda nightclub, you pay a fee to go in. If you don't like the nightclub, you don't ask for a refund. They just kick you out.
All right.
All right.
I get the point.
I know we're progressing very, very well.
I get the point.
Through the conversation, because even as we're speaking, and like you've explained about the working class, etc.
Yeah.
And I know that as we'll be speaking, we'll be talking about the junior golf as well.
Okay.
And I'm just really interested, even as we gain momentum, what do you mean junior? Is it a certain age group, and how are we slowly fashioning them into the sport? Is it in in setup of institutions? What exactly is going on around junior golf? I'm very, very curious to understand.
Junior golf, there's what is called the Junior Golf Foundation, whose role it is to develop people from the age of 2 onwards, so long as they can start swinging anything. That is the age that junior golf starts from. And over the last 3 or 4 years, junior golf has actually developed a very, very inclusive program. They're using something called US Kids Golf, which is what has been used in the US to develop golf. And when you look at the United States, most of the top players in the world come from that place. And it's a very simple thing. They have a program where they've taught people basic training that can be done in any open piece of ground. So you've got, I think they've got about 80 trainers around the country at the moment near any golf course. And some of the schools, they go to schools and do some recruitment. And what happens is that they train them on basic golf.
All right.
Now, where do they get their kit from? A lot of supporting organizations globally have sent kits to Kenya. Right, so I think they've probably got several thousand kits hanging around the country, and increasing over time. And every year we get them, and also the different clusters around, or different units around the country. Golfers who've moved on and they're buying new equipment. Golfers really like showing off the equipment. And if there's something new, everybody rushes for it.
Right.
So whatever they've finished, they hand over to this to the junior development program. So there are people are giving back into that space. And these trainers are building them up to learn how to play golf at a very young age. And then, when people start young, that memory that stays, muscle memory, everything
Yes.
else that comes in is much easier to put in than for, if CT here starts golf now. he might not be able to learn it as well as these
I've
people.
actually heard what you've said.
Yeah, no, I'll take you on. Let's do it.
He could try. He would test the theory, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, I've known this man for a very long time.
I can tell that
That's right.
the banter
and I'm
between
going to take him on that one.
Yeah, that's par for the course.
So we're going to take a break in a bit. We're going to come back and then look at what the Magical Kenya Open is going to do over the next couple of days, and the activities that have happened in the last couple of weeks and then in the next couple of days in the run up to the Open. But then just looking at demystifying this whole thing around golf and saying, well, okay, you have to have reached a certain class, you have to have reached a certain amount of a bank balance to be able to play the sport. Opportunities to demystify that, Patrick.
Yeah. The people who are playing professional golf in Kenya at the moment hadn't reached that level. They started off as caddies, a large number of them. They started off carrying people's bags, and they watched what people were doing, and they had a chance to play, to practice a little bit with a few of the clubs that were there in the golf clubs, and over time they've been able to now become professionals in golf, and they're the leading people playing golf in the country.
Right.
Those people are not those people who are high up with money.
Yes.
They've just come up the ranks.
Yeah.
And the same thing as we're talking about the junior golf. You're getting people from all sorts of walks of life. They come in, they learn the sport, right? In an area that it is affordable.
Yeah.
And for the juniors, for example, what they're doing for them is that they pay 100 shillings a year. I think they pay 1,500 shillings a year for a license, and then they can go and play in any club for 100 shillings.
Around the country.
Around the country.
Yeah, fantastic.
Right? And that is where we start them from. And hopefully that spread will mean that we demystify this thing that is an expensive place.
Absolutely.
People can start at that level, and you've got people from Mudaga Golf Club, from the Madari area coming there. You've got them in Nyali, they're coming from Kisauni. Almost every golf club in this country has got a program that is picking children up from the schools and the vicinity around them and beginning to grow them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Patrick Obath is our guest this hour, and he is the tournament director and chair of the local organising committee for Magical Kenya, and we're looking at Magical Kenya Golf Open that comes in and the activities in the run-up to that, and looking at golf as a sport and what it is actually doing. I'd lovely to hear what's happening with young people and what they're able to do in the sport, as with any sport. And so we have this tournament then, even after having looked at where the sport has come from, what it's able to do for people in the country and how we've seen it develop over time, then we have this magical tournament that takes place, which is the Magical Kenya Open that takes place around this time, the 2025 edition, knocking on the doors again. And then, was the decision easy to have this tournament again this year, Patrick?
This is a tournament that has been around since 1967, and it's obviously grown since that time. 67 it started off, and it was called the Safari Swing, when the European professionals used to have a winter break, and then they would come to Africa when it was warm, and then they'd go to Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and then come to Kenya, and that was their winter finished. And they played for their own money. And then it became the Kenya Open, and it was taken over by the Kenya Golf Union. And then in 1991, it moved to what is called the Challenge Tour. Now it is at the European Tour level. And each of those simply means that the prize money went bigger and bigger and bigger. In 1991, when it started off on the Challenge Tour, it was probably prize money was about $30,000 or $40,000. Yeah? Money of the day at that time. Right now, prize money is $2.5 million.
Okay.
Right? So that is the evolution that the event has gone on through. Now, one of the things around the event is that it's in for the long term. There's a reason why we're having a golf tournament at that kind of level. It's not just a big jolly that you have have one day and the event is gone. There's a reason why this event went to the European Tour almost 5 years ago, with the government investing, and they're still investing in it now. When you look at the Magical Kenya Open in the European Tour, the prize money is $2.5 million. That's a lot of money.
Yes.
And you think a country like Kenya spending $2.5 million as prize money, the organizing cost is about another $1.5 million.
Yeah.
So the total cost of putting this on is about $4 million. The business case that was made for this particular event to be held in Kenya is that you have 4 hours continuous broadcasting for 4 days.
Yes.
That's live, direct.
Yes.
Now, if you looked at the equivalent in advertising value, how much would it cost globally, reaching 500 million homes? How much would it cost to pay for 4 hours every day for 4 days, including prime time on weekends?
Easily 100 times that.
It would be a lot. It's actually, I think they took it at about $500 million as the cost of paying for advertising there. And you're getting it at $2.5 million. Or say 4 million. So you're right, 100 times that.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. So that's the investment that you said Kenya as a country invests in popularizing its assets globally. And the means of popularizing it was chosen as Magical Kenya, which is tourism. Hence the Magical Kenya Open name. And over this period of time, it's basically a no-brainer to say we need to have this event in Kenya every year. And that's why we keep having it every year. There's a business case to it. Right? And, a lot of people think, no, it's money going out for no reason. It's a long-term investment by the government of the country in terms of growing tourism, growing business, and growing sport.
Right.
3 things
Right.
On that basis. And there's no cheaper place to do it than with the Magical Kenya Open, which is broadcast 500 million homes for 4 days, 4 hours. That's a lot of people watching Kenya.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it, and you're all media people,
Yeah.
if it's TV, there's a lot you can do around the visuals
Oh, yes.
in terms of promoting various aspects of Kenya.
Yeah.
So you can promote the national parks, you can promote people running, you can promote anything you want during those 4 hours that thing is being done. And the content, the good thing about it, we can put content in.
Yeah.
If you're broadcasting a Premier League thing in Kenya, there's very little you can put there. But this is ours in Kenya.
Yeah.
So that is why the Kenya Open, we make sure that it happens every year.
I mean, that's amazing. So it's not just the golf that's happening on the greens, but
No.
what happens is that you get to show and you get to showcase and bring in perspectives from different parts of the country.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct. And that's the investment. And then obviously the next thing that happens is now we've also got, it's also serving as a sort of a focal point for the development of golf in the country.
Yeah.
People want to be able to play in the Magical Kenya Open. And there obviously you can only play when you reach a certain level of proficiency. Yeah. So, but entry into the European Tour off your own bat is not easy. There's a very long qualifying process. So for our nascent, our professionals around Kenya, around East Africa, and the rest of Africa, outside of South Africa, there isn't really yet a pathway to playing in the Kenya Open or in the international events of this nature. So to ensure that at least they have a chance to play, what we've negotiated and the European Tour normally allows is say, fine, they may not be at the level of the international people, but let's expose them, at least for the country. So we have a certain number of slots that are given by the European Tour under their licensing arrangements, which allows for us to then invite the top people to go and play amongst the elite of the world in golf.
All right.
Yeah.
Looking at injecting about $7 million into the country's economy, that's really, really a good one. But then you want to excite Kenyans as well to be, it's good to be excited about something. And what is the expected attendance? Because if someone is listening and they're interested, they might want to also know approximately what are we looking at in as far as the attendance is concerned.
Okay. What we've typically had is about 15,000 people locally attending over the 4 days. And then we have about 9,000 to 10,000 people from the region.
Yeah.
Especially Uganda. Ugandans love traveling and they're here. Right? You've seen them in the WRC, they come in large numbers. So for golf, they do the same as well. And in fact, this year, the Uganda Golf Union is taking up a tent.
Nice.
In the golf course for
Right.
Ugandans.
Yeah.
Right? That is how much they're enrolled into coming to the golf here.
Yeah.
So we expect about 15,000 people locally to come in, maybe a little bit more.
Right.
The cost of coming in is 1,000 shillings on the Thursday and on the Friday. And then on the Saturday and Sunday is 2,000 shillings. But if you want a season ticket, it costs you 5,000 shillings. So you save 1,000 bob by having the season ticket.
Early birds.
And just to remind people, it's actually starting on the 20th
Yes.
of February, which is on Thursday in about 4 days' time. And then it runs until the 23rd of February on the Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to take note that, often when we think about, golf and the playing of it and the management of it, you might want to localize it to Nairobi. But there are other parts of the country where it's being played. The western part of the country, we're looking at, golf, the Nyanza clubs. We're looking at Mombasa, and we're looking at the different clubs there. We're looking at, the eastern part of the country, the western part of the country. Everybody taken into consideration and saying, okay, well, everybody gets an opportunity to be involved in this, is it not?
Yes. What we have in running the event, and that's really where the main involvement is. Once we all talk about the professionals, the people who are playing the golf, behind that, we have almost 1,000+ volunteers who are working behind the scenes and doing things. And whenever we need volunteers, my chief marshal, James Ondigo, sends out a request to all the clubs around the country for people to volunteer to come to Nairobi and help us run the event. And volunteering positions include scoring. When you see the score automatically coming up as players are playing, there's a whole ecosystem behind it that makes that happen. There's people walking around the course. They've got technology. They're entering scores as they happen. That then gets collated into a system and then appears on your screen. So there's people who are walking and scoring. There are other people who are doing marshalling, making sure that people can cross at the safe places and people walk properly. You've got people who are doing carrying boards. You've got backroom people who are organizing all the meals for the players and so forth, the transportation. You've got people who are looking after security. Whilst you have a security company, but we have a group of people who are also volunteers who are oversighting the security that we have in the event. So there's a lot of volunteers, and we really thank those volunteers who have traveled off their own from the different parts of the country, coming into Nairobi to be with us for the 5 days, 6 days, because they've got to come early. They are beginning to arrive today and tomorrow, so that they can be kitted out, they can get their tickets, they can get trained, catch up with the latest technology, and then recce around their jobs, and then start on Thursday. So there's a lot that happens behind the scenes.
The thing about sports, beyond just the playing and the watching of it, is what it does to form communities. There are sports that once upon a time were not common sport. One of them is rugby.
Yeah.
Now, rugby got to a point where it features in the national calendar for schools as a sport. But it's different because it was made possible because people who played rugby at a certain college, which was then Kenyatta University College, were teachers. So when they were posted, they took their rugby skills with them, and over time, other people came and the same thing replicated over time. Now, we are told there are approximately 40 golf clubs in Kenya. Outside South Africa, we have the most golf clubs on the continent.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Now, would it make sense to have golf as a sport that is considered to be a sport among, say, secondary school children or among children? Would it make sense?
Actually, one of the things that has bedeviled golf for all these years is that it was never included as an official co-curricular activity in schools. Right? And the Kenya Golf Union, the federation, had been working to try and make sure that it is actually a co-curricular item in schools. And I think the syllabus has been put together and it's with the KICD. And I think the KICD has approved it and is now in the ministry waiting for approval. Once that happens, then it opens the way for golf now to become part of school. The schools that have put golf as one of their co-curricular activities are doing it outside of the normal approvals that they require. And these are mainly private schools who can afford to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But the public schools require it to be in official curriculum of schools. So hopefully during the course of this year, that will be passed and go through Parliament, and then effectively golf will have a new revolution in terms of reaching a much wider area. So the golf fraternity is doing a lot of work, but they're doing it purely out of their own love of the golf, rather than, as you said, of the people who were at Kenyatta. it was called Black Blood, eh?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
the
called
guys used to play Black
Yes,
Blood,
yes,
and then
yes.
they all went to, they were posted, and in the schools they built rugby.
Yes.
So golf will be the same once the curriculum is approved by the government.
It's interesting.
So good sport.
Very nice. It's interesting what I'm seeing here in as far as the mental strength that golf gives, leave alone the character it develops. I don't know if you've watched Kingsman. I don't know why it hit my... Have you watched Kingsman?
I have not.
Is it a movie?
You should. Yes, it's a movie.
All right.
And they say, Manners maketh man.
Manners make it, man. Yeah.
All right. And I think it's Arnold Palmer, who emphasized the mental fortitude required for success in golf. And he said success in golf depends less on strength of the body than upon strength of mind and character. Perhaps I just want to engage you in that particular line of conversation.
Arnold Palmer is absolutely right.
Yeah.
When you look at, and I'll give you a story that illustrates that.
Story time.
There's a friend of mine, sadly enough, he passed away. He passed away late last year. He was a contractor years back when I was still at the coast.
Yeah.
And he wanted to play golf. I mean, that's where all the CEOs were present, whatever it is. And he says, I also want to be there so I can get business. So he joined Nyali Golf Club, which is where I was at the time. And he went and kitted himself out, bought all the clothes, and came to the driving range now to get ready to play golf.
Right.
And when you start, if you play squash and tennis, you got this ball coming at you at speed, and then you can hit it back. But in golf, it is sitting there waiting for you to hit it. Try and hit it, and if you try and hit it too high, you'll fall over.
Yeah.
With the momentum that you're trying to do that because you've missed. That's what happens most of the time. It's sitting there waiting for you to hit it.
Yeah.
But to hit it properly, you really have to focus, and you've got to be well tuned in the mind to be able to hit that ball. So this friend of mine, I mean, he was a very, a very tightly strung guy. Really wanted, he was a go-getter, everything else. He practiced 10 shots, and he couldn't hit the ball.
Yes.
He took the golf ball, threw it at his caddy, and said, "Chukua yuende nyumbani, go with it. I don't want it." And that was it. And he quit the club and went. So you can imagine that the people who are playing golf compared to that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
What the shift in the mental way that person is.
Yes.
It does take a certain amount of concentration. It takes a certain amount of skill, and it also means that you've got to be able to shut out a lot of things when you're playing the golf. If somebody says they've had a bad day at the golf course, it's not because of the golf course. It's what they brought.
What they've come
It's
with.
the baggage they brought to the golf course.
Yeah.
That's what has really caused that to happen.
Yeah.
And so absolutely right. That whole mental strength
Yes.
is the key thing in golf. When you even hit a bad shot, you can carry that bad shot the whole round because you keep remembering, I hit that thing and it cost me so much.
Yeah.
But if you look at people like Tiger Woods, I mean, now he's not playing whatever. When he was young, when he was going to hit a ball, his father used to take a steel thing
Yes,
and
and
hit
hit
it.
it. Yeah.
So most people, you would actually stop because of the noise. But he was able to play through that.
Through the noise.
That is the mental strength that you build. But you got to work out how to build that for yourself.
Indeed.
And you find a lot of people who play golf over time. If they begin to improve their game and starting off at that handicap, I think I was wrong at the beginning. The handicap 54 is for both men and women.
All
Okay,
right.
so it's equal.
It's equal, yeah? To
Very
start
nice.
from 54 and come all the way down to 18,
18.
19, and even back to 0. That requires a lot of mental strength.
Strength and
Right?
focus, I
There's
would
not, it's
imagine.
not just skill, but that mental strength as well. To be able to lock in the good parts of your game and lock out the bad parts that want to come in.
Indeed.
Very,
So,
very
I mean, usually with, this is, like you said, this is part of a global tour, right?
Yeah.
The Magical Kenya Open is part of a global tour. So, I mean, other tournaments that are coming part of this. So, who are you expecting? Obviously, with every international tournament of its caliber, you're looking for who are the greats who are going to come in and play. Who are those? Who you'd expect?
The first one we're expecting, I think that the obvious ones for me are the past 5 winners of the event are all coming.
Okay.
Right, and that is great because they won here, and most of the people who win here go ahead and become they become great players in the bigger field of golf globally. And quite a few people who played here became big names in their own right globally. Sever Ballesteros, I mean, that's the guy who a lot of people talk about having played here, became an icon in golf. Even up to now, people remember that. But we've got, for example, we've got the last 5 winners coming in. The top guy in the tour at the moment, Hao Tong Li from China, is coming to play. And he won in Qatar last 2 weeks ago. So he's coming to play here.
Nice.
He's at the top of the ranking at the moment, globally. Plus, I think the top 4 in the ranking, top 8 are actually coming here.
Okay.
So that means that this event, where it is placed on the calendar, but also the level of prize money, is enough to attract the bigger names of golf in Europe. Yeah.
So expecting quite a number of pro players, if I'll call it that way.
Top pro players.
Top pro.
Yes.
Wow, makes it even better.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you hope over the 4 days of the tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, beyond the playing of golf? I mean, let's talk a little bit more about then what Kenya can show and how that can actually happen. And people stay over for a few more days, expect them to, take a few days after the tournament and enjoy what Kenya has to offer?
Let me talk about après golf.
Yeah.
Both on the days of golf,
Yeah.
and then before and after.
Yes.
Right? And talk about après golf.
Yes.
During the event, a lot of non-golfers do come, and we have something for them. From 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, when the golf course closes, the golf village opens.
Right.
And that one is for all of us who enjoy nightlife.
Cultural establishments.
And cultural
Yes.
Yes.
Cultural
Yes.
interactions.
cultural interactions. That will be opening from Thursday to Saturday, from 5 o'clock in the evening up to 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
There'll be, there'll be food, drink of every single type, soft drinks, hard drinks,
Right.
everything will be there. Plenty of music.
Oh, that is
Music will be there.
important. Yes.
And all courtesy of our sponsors, EABL. They put the village together for us. But there's also a lot of exhibitions from some of the younger talent that we have in the country in terms of the creative economy. So there's a whole like, I don't want to call it bazaar, but we call it Kifaru Village, where people can buy various things. You can see the creative economy at work in the village. Plus a lot to do with golf and golf merchandise and everything else. Plus also there'll be a display around junior golf. So that will happen every night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Nice.
and Sunday, including when the event is finished. Before and after the event, quite a few, before this event actually was good because this week has been free. For the players. They didn't play this immediate last weekend. So quite a few people have come and gone with their families on holidays, and then they'll now come and play from outside. I know a lot of the production people, because the players are heading to South Africa after this, but the production people are not going to go with them. They're probably going to take a break and then go to another event. So they normally take a week's break, and the one place they always want to go to, one guess.
The Mara.
Exactly.
Of
So they all go down. They all go
Pride.
down there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that is a flagship product that we have as Kenya.
Yeah.
So they come in and they say, can you go to the Mara for a couple of days? We say, okay, fine. And fortunately enough for us, KTB is one of our partners.
Yes.
And they're able to sort of organize that for them, give them a good rate, and they're able to go down. And these are the people who are our ambassadors for this country. They come in under golf. They go, we take them, give them a bit of a treat, and they go back and talk about this country and build our tourism numbers. So yes, there's plenty to do.
And they become ambassadors without even knowing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They do that.
Yeah.
So so golf. I mean, there's a lot around golf that you could talk about in terms of just the peripheral bits and pieces that we're trying to do with the game. Last year we had what we called MKO for Business. It was the first time we tried it out. We dissected. We are understanding how we are rebuilding it, so that it can be more effective. Last year it was effective last year, but for the future we want to make it into a fixed thing that we can say for the next 5 years we are going to do it in this particular manner. That's one.
Yeah.
Last year we also had something called Golf for the Disabled, which we had never seen in this part of the world, and they only play in about 7 or 8 countries. We brought it here last year. It generated a lot of interest. We are also taking that asset and seeing how we can weave it and create a case for it in Kenya. But in order to create a case, we need to start with a grassroots motivation, a grassroots program with the people who are differently abled. so that when we bring in the golf for the disabled, then it can be inclusive. It actually has a following in this country.
Yes.
So there are various things that are happening around the game of golf that you're trying to build, so that golf actually spreads a lot more than just this what we were talking about at the beginning. I hope it's gone now. That golf is for the.
We think some of the comments though.
That golf is a game for the rich people.
Yes.
Yeah, for the whatever it is. There's a lot around it.
And especially when you start early, it doesn't have to really start late in life.
No.
Like people think, I have to be rich before I start engaging. Your child can actually get into junior golf and build through it. Pay 100 shillings, you said, after the 1,500.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Indeed.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of days and, what, the Magical Kenya Open will be able to do on the tour, but as well as, build for Kenya. And, congratulations for doing that again this year. And it will be great to see over the next couple of days the activities from today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then out into the tournament, getting out into Sunday. And so thanks for coming here this morning. And, thanks for sharing a lot of that with us today.
One quick plug for the juniors.
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, yes.
On Saturday, we shall have what is called a shootout.
Okay.
And the shootout is as follows.